On the pole, Carl Edwards, 181.287 miles per hour.
Great qualifying run for John Wood. Outside pole, his best ever career start in the Busch Series.
What about Justin Labonte outside row 3?
Yeah, he needs a good run. Good qualifying effort for him.
Stacy Compton, a little back further in the grid here, 13th starting position for him. Those guys really working hard, really need a good run to get their season turned around.
There's Casey Atwood, as you talked about, his one of 2 starts in Ray Evernham's Dodge.
Jason Keller, always tough at Kentucky.
Kenny Wallace, as you said, seemed to be really happy with his car in practice. A little disappointed with his qualifying run, but I'd look for him to make his way towards the front also.
Greg Biffle's going to be starting 21st. We have some radio communication with him. Let's see if we can raise Greg on the radio. Hey, Greg Biffle, Phil Parsons, can you hear me?
Got you, Phil.
Greg, you've had a busy day, but you've never ran a lap in this car other than testing a few weeks ago. But how does Jay Sauter have that thing set up for you? How was it qualifying?
It was pretty decent qualifying. Just a little bit too free. Saved, was a little cautious qualifying, left a little on the table. I think Jay's got it perfect for us, really.
Yeah, he seemed to like the same setup that you did from what your crew chief, Newt Moore, was telling me. But you have a pretty good car at Michigan for tomorrow, too, don't you?
Yeah, I got a great car for tomorrow. I qualified 25th up there, but I got a really awesome car for tomorrow. I'm excited about it.
We see you putting your steering wheel back on straight. You told me that you didn't want to finish second this race.
Yeah, I know it. Carl's going to be a tough customer. There's going to be some other fast cars, but, it's my career worst finish is second year, so I figure I'm going to break my record tonight. Either going to be worse than that or get a win. I doubt whether I'll finish second 4 times in a row.
All right, have a good one, Greg.
Thank you.
Let's take a look now at the weather at Kentucky. Much better, way better than it was at Nashville last week. Right now, air temperature 72 degrees, 51% humidity, very little wind, a few clouds here and there. The sun is setting and the moon's coming out. It's a great night to go racing here in Sparta, Kentucky.
You couldn't ask for better weather for the fans, for the drivers, for the teams. It's just absolutely perfect. Chamber of Commerce weather here in Kentucky.
Yeah, they couldn't have ordered this any better. Really, they couldn't. And let's take a look at our race analysis. 200 laps, 300 miles.
See our pit road speed, 45 miles per hour. The pace car will run 55 on the racetrack, and our pit window is somewhere around 60 to 70 laps.
Seems like every year here, fuel mileage will come into play at some point during the course of this race. I wouldn't be surprised to see the same thing tonight.
It's the pace car about to take that left-hand turn, head to pit road. Again, 200 laps, 300 miles. And with this 70,000 people waving the Rusty Wallace rally towel, we're underway, and Carl Edwards gets a great start.
He's not going to get away from Martin Truex, but Martin right on his rear bumper. He's going to bypass the 47 car of John Wood.
Top 3 or 4 cars, 5 cars now single file. Rusty Wallace back there in the 6th position, trying to find some racing room to the inside of Justin Labonte. There's Rusty in the 64, Justin in the Coast Guard Chevy just up ahead.
Much like Carl Edwards, Rusty Wallace was here this morning and ran most of the first practice session, so he's familiar with this race car on this racetrack.
And he's serious about winning this race tonight. No play for Rusty.
Very serious. Rusty wants to get that 0 off his record. No Busch Series wins in his career.
You see Carl Edwards beginning to stretch away. J.J. Yeley to the inside of his teammate Denny Hamlin. Moved Yeley now up to the 4th spot. J.J. Yeley's one driver who desperately needs a good finish. He's had some strong runs this year, but when you look at the stat sheet, nothing to really show for it.
He's been fast every week. This is the kind of good racetrack that those kind of cars can get in there and get in the groove, get single file, get some laps under their belt. I look for J.J. Yeley and Denny Hamlin to have good solid runs tonight.
J.J.'s got a bit of momentum going. He finished in the top 10 last week at Nashville, so he's on the right track.
He made up a lap doing it, so he did it the hard way. There's Rusty Wallace again trying to get by Justin Labonte. Some good racing a little bit farther back of the pack. There's Johnny Sauter working to the inside of Chad Blunt. Just up ahead, Sterling Marlin in that number 40 car. Here's Rusty now trying to get to the inside of Justin Labonte. Paul Menard in the draft of Rusty Wallace Menard in that yellow number 11. And there's also Reed Sorensen and Casey Atwood in the hunt there as well.
Boy, Rusty really drove it down in the corner hard. He actually lost the front end, drove up in front of the 44 Justin Labonte. That allowed Paul Menard, the 11 Menard Chevrolet, to get in the inside. Already have some trouble here. That's Michael Waltrip. Looks like he's made some contact with something. No caution flag as of yet.
Let's take a look at a replay. Problems early for Michael Waltrip. Waltrip looks like he's heading for pit road.
He just went by our position here. Let's see if we can take a look at what happened to Michael. Look at the one car gets sideways, and I think Michael made some contact with the left front of the one of Johnny Sauter as he was spinning sideways. It actually straightened Johnny Sauter back up, but I think Michael's going to pay the price.
Cut down a right front tire, and a very tough break for Michael Waltrip. One of 5 drivers doing the long distance double duty here at Kentucky, and you see the damage to the right front of Michael Waltrip. And take Hermie, the left front for Johnny Sauter's messed up. How big a deal is that?
That's going to be big here. Front downforce on these race cars is very, very important. More important than it ever has been. And he's going to, not to be full song on that. Getting back to Michael Waltrip, he being from Kentucky, you also know he had high hopes for this race as well. But his chances of winning are gone. But Johnny Sauter needs to get that looked at when he gets to pit road for sure.
He'll try to hang in there to the first caution flag. It looks like they certainly don't want to try to repair that under green. It's going to take them a little bit.
For sure. So there you see Michael Waltrip on pit road right now. There's a lot of damage to the right front fender. They're going to have to pull it out. You see him reaching for a hammer. It's going to really put Michael out of contention for this race. He'll end up being 3 or 4 laps down by the time this pit stop is over, even if they get done fairly quickly.
He started this race back in 2004. His only other start here at Kentucky. Started 34th and finished 14th. So obviously he's one of those guys, you don't pay any attention to how he qualifies, because it's sort of like golf. You know, you drive for show, you putt for the dough. Well, Michael Waltrip, when you drop the green flag, always races better than he qualifies.
And he had Kerry Earnhardt here earlier today practicing this car. So when he qualified, he had not sat in this race car on this racetrack this week. So he did a pretty good job to get that thing in the show. But unfortunately, he's going to have some trouble and find himself 3 or 4 laps down.
4 drivers battling for that 7th spot. Rusty Wallace owns it. Paul Menard, Reed Sorensen, Casey Atwood, nose to tail, trying to muscle up and take it away from Rusty as they close in on that top flight Dodge. And again, they're all basically right there running the same groove, although Rusty slides a little high now in turn 2.
He's searching for a little groove there, isn't he, Hermie? He's trying to find some clean racetrack there. They're watching Carl Edwards drive away. Carl almost has a 2-second lead right now over our 2nd place car, Martin Truex. So Rusty knows that. He said, hey, I've got to find me a little bit better place to run.
The 11 car looks really good too. He's been able to hug the bottom at both ends, and when Rusty does slide up the racetrack, it enables Paul Menard to get that clean air on nose of his car, which makes it turn that much better.
Just can't quite get there, though. He's nosed up under Rusty a couple of times and just hasn't been able to get it done. We mentioned Carl Edwards now has built a gap of 2.1 seconds back to Martin Truex Jr. Glenn Jarrett has more on his car.
Guys, I'm watching the NASCAR timing, and for the past several laps, there hadn't been anybody within a 1/4 of a second a lap as fast as Carl Edwards. Every now and then somebody creeps up there about maybe 2 tenths behind, but he is absolutely killing them right now. I talked to Brad Parrott, the crew chief. I said, what is he saying about the car? He said, he likes it.
He ought to. If you just joined us here at the Kentucky Speedway, Carl Edwards has been the man early on tonight. He led the first 42 laps, gave up the lead after going to pit road on lap 42, and by lap 52, he was back in the number 1 spot, pulling away now to almost a 1-second lead over Reed Sorensen.
Got a great car. Reed Sorensen was right with him a few laps ago, and then it was almost like Carl said, okay, you're right on my bumper. I need to give me a little cushion, so I'm just going to step on the throttle and open me up about a 2nd lead.
And remember, last week, Carl Edwards gave to Reed Sorensen the Busch Series point lead by not being able to race at Nashville. So trying to prevent him from leading and getting the bonus of 5 more points certainly has got to be on the mind of that charter team with Carl Edwards.
I think they're in the mode right now that they want to lead every lap they can. They want to lead every lap. They want to lead the most laps, get the most points, and they'll let the chips fall where they may. We got a good glimpse of Sterling Marlin there. He's another one of those drivers that came over from Michigan doing double duty. He didn't practice 1 lap in that car. Paul Wolf did a nice job practicing that 40 car for Sterling Marlin. Paul had a great run last week at Nashville, his best career finish in the Busch Series, but he's got Sterling right now. He had obviously a pretty good piece. He's being shown in the 11th position right now.
He started 17th, so it's plus 16 for Sterling Marlin. Another car that is moving forward, that's Clint Boyer, the blue number 2.
We heard earlier that he was extremely loose. Well, we've had a pit stop, so we know Miguel Martin was able to adjust on that car, probably tighten him up a little bit. Now he's gaining ground. He's already moved by Denny Hamlin for the 8th position. Now he's looking at J.J. Yeley for the 7th. He's going to move underneath him.
So Boyer working very good now, very strong after that pit stop. Glenn Jarrett has more on him.
Yeah, they did adjust on the car. You're right, Phil. They did tighten it up a little bit. On the restart, Clint said the car was still just a little bit loose. But as I said, it's getting cooler, and so the track's starting to come to those guys. Clint came back right before he came into the pits to make those adjustments and said, hey, guys, it's getting better. The track's coming to me, but we still need to tighten it up a little bit. So they're definitely moving in the right direction. There's a lot of cars, or several cars, that are kind of back in the pack right now, maybe 6 or 8 or 10 seconds behind the leaders, that I think are going to be a factor in this thing before it's over. They've been a little bit loose, but as it cools off, they're going to be the guys to watch because they're already moving forward in the field. Clint Boyer is one of them.
Boyer had tried and failed to take that spot away from J.J. Yeley moments ago. This time he makes it stick. He's now moved up to the 7th spot. And as far as the guys that are moving north, moving forward in the field, the biggest movers and shakers early on here at Kentucky.
Remember, Ashton Lewis stayed out on this most recent caution flag, and he's already fallen back to the 19th position. Jason Keller did the same thing, but he obviously had his tires cleaned off, and he's still being shown in the 6th position. So that's how much time and ground he lost by not having his tires cleaned up.
And Ashton lost majority of those spots in one lap, the lap of the restart. Once he settled in, he's been pretty consistent, pretty steady where he's at.
Blake Fees, you see there, he started 43rd in the backup. He's gained 20 spots. Not bad. A rookie driver in a backup car.
That's something you can't underestimate, his confidence. Clint Boyer showed up here with a lot of confidence. I spoke to him this morning. He never has been somebody who talked a whole lot, but you could see in his eyes that win last week propelled him and his team to another level, and he knows he can win.
Sterling Marlin, Rusty Wallace trade spots. So now moves Sterling Marlin up to the 10th position. So he's gained 17 spots so far. So Sterling Marlin giving that number 40 a great ride, as did Johnny Benson last week at Nashville. Benson actually led that race for a while, and he flew in on race day. Never sat in the race car, never had a lap before the green flag either.
Johnny had a top 10 going last week at Nashville and got turned around on the very last lap. Got trouble off of turn number 2.
And it looks like it might have been Rusty Wallace.
I think Rusty's just avoiding the accident. You see the 28 car right there.
That's Jamie Mosley. We've got a replay of this latest incident.
Looks like he just was all by himself and got sideways coming off turn number 2. Made some contact with the outside wall.
Boy, Clint Boyer did do an awfully good job sneaking by to the outside. He had one car length, one width, and about 2 inches on each side.
He really did. Right place at the right time in that particular case, but very, very close to being a disaster for the 2 car. We talked about turn 2 earlier in the telecast. It's been a trouble spot during practice today for the 5 car, and there for Jamie Mosley.
Man, you have been psychic about that. Like you've raced here before, or like you've practiced here before.
Look, I've been here in cars that drove just like Jamie Mosley's car has been driving over there, so I know how it is to hang on over there.
Under this caution period, we see a number of the top cars heading for pit road, led by Carl Edwards. Again, remember problems on his last pit stop. It was a little slow. That caused him to lose the lead. Let's go down to Hank Parker Jr.
Guys, the 41 car's in the pits. He's still, like I said earlier, fighting a tight condition. They're wanting to free it up. They've got the wedge wrench in the right window, putting 4 tires on, and down to you, Glenn Jarrett.
Well, Hank, I'm still waiting on Carl Edwards to reach his stall. He's in the very first or the very last stall at the end of pit road down here. He comes in now. Crew Chief Brad Parrott said on the radio this will be a 4-tire change. Carl's also getting an ice pack. He's a little warm in the car. Right side is down. So Carl's going to use that to cool off. No problem so far, and it looks like David Green, the 27, beats everybody out. The 60 car comes out second.
And one car had to go out into the grass. That was Reed Sorensen to prevent getting hit by some of the cars coming out of their pit boxes. So Sorensen, they'll figure out where he belongs here in a moment, as a great evasive move there by that driver. Let's take a look at what happened here just moments ago on pit road. Close call for Reed Sorensen.
Everybody running single file down pit road right now. So 20 of Denny Hamlin right there. Pulled out of his pit and he moved to the outside line, but Reed Sorensen was there, so Reed said, I'm not going to stop, I'm just going to go out in the grass.
Yeah, little lawn mowing right there. None the worse for the wear. But a good, strong pit stop, it looks like, by Carl Edwards' team. Will put him out near the front. Of course, David Green had that great pit stop that time as well. And that's a team that desperately needed some good pit stops, Phil, because that's how they basically lost any chance to win the race last week. They left a tire loose and took a car that had a chance to win and put it behind the wall after the tire came off and it wrecked.
Yeah, David had such a good run going last week, and unfortunately late in the race he he had trouble with that loose wheel and ended up breaking the wheel.
So David Green trying to hold on to the point. This is just the third race all season that David Green has led, and there's Michael Waltrip about to say adios amigos to the Kentucky Speedway. Is that Michael at the controls?
I hope not.
I hope not.
He, of course, is flying to the airport after his 4th DNF of the season, heading back to Michigan, where he'll put that Napa Chevrolet through its paces tomorrow afternoon. So David Green has been in all 5 races here at Kentucky, but it is the first time he has ever led. It's under yellow, and when they drop the green flag here in a moment, we hope that perhaps he can hold on to lead some laps under green. Might be kind of tough, though, Phil. Carl Edwards is right there on his back bumper.
It looks like Carl, when he wants to go, he goes. See how good a job David did with his cleaning off his tires there. You got gas only, Glenn just told us on that pit stop. So remember what happened to Ashton Lewis when he drove down in turn number 1. You see David's going to slide to the top of the racetrack a little bit. Carl Edwards going to drive by the inside to take back over the lead.
Well, Carl recognizes that. He knows the best time to get David Green is only start going in turn 1 when David is a little unsure of his tire. So good move by Carl Edwards, and he's back out front again.
David Green slides back in line behind him, run in the 2nd spot. Looks like the 5 car, Blake Fees, has hit the wall. That car well off the pace after wrecking the primary in qualifying. More damage, more work for the Hendrick Motorsports gang, and you can see the right side pretty well scraped up.
He has flat-sided. You can see the left rear tire was actually pushed out, so it has bent a trailing arm or his rear end housing over. Looks like John Wood, the 47 car, after such a great run earlier, slowing.
He is off the pace. We'll see if he tries to hunt down to the inside of the racetrack to get down low enough to get on the pit lane.
He's not going to be able to get on pit road. See if we can take a look when he comes by here, see if he's made some contact with the outside wall.
Doesn't seem like he has, but we've got an idea, maybe a picture of what happened to John Wood.
Got real high up into the loose stuff there. I don't know if he's going to make any contact. Maybe a little bit of contact with the outside wall, but the most damage, most momentum was lost by the fact he got up in the loose stuff, not able to stay in the throttle.
A lot of things like that happen right after restarts, but it looks like now he's feels back in there and coming back over the front.
Clint Boyer continues to march his way to the front. He just drove by the 27 car of David Green, moved Boyer in the number 2 up to the 2nd spot, and now we'll see if he can reel in Carl Edwards. It's 0.7 of a second back from the 1st to 2nd spot right now. Let's take a look at the 8 and the 66 coming on to pit road this last time.
Yeah, I noticed when the leaders got ready to come on pit road for this past caution, you see the 8 car making his way on pit road. NASCAR says you're supposed to be in single file order when you hit the commitment line coming to pit road, but as you can see, the 66 is on the inside of the 8 and actually keeps that position all the way down pit road and actually pulls ahead of the 8 car going to his pit stall. So not quite sure what the ruling is there, but the rule supposedly is you have to be single file.
He even pushed him over in the grass, it looked like a little bit, Hermie, so I'm not sure exactly what went on there, but obviously we got Rusty Wallace on pit road with problems. This is definitely an unscheduled pit stop for Rusty.
Now Rusty ran most of this race so far inside the top 10, 9th, 10th, 11th position. having a pretty good run after finishing 6th in his only other Busch Series start this season. That was, of course, on the road course in Mexico City. So Rusty's pit crew going to work on the right side of his car as Carl Edwards continues to lead. And he is just pulling away at will, Phil. 1.6 seconds back to Clint Boyer. When Boyer took over second, the lead was half that.
He was a good 0.3 of a second faster than anybody else on the racetrack that lap. That's what kind of pace Carl Edwards is setting right now.
So far, Carl Edwards has led 68 laps, and there are problem on the backstretch. That Sterling Marlin, the 40 car, has turned around, and that brings out the caution flag for the 5th time.
Somebody did a great evasive move there. Sterling fortunately got the thing straightened back out, but you know there was a lot of smoke from the tires and things. Somebody went by him about 40 miles an hour faster than him, but Sterling left enough room between his car and the wall for that car to get by.
Let's take a look at the replay and the problems now for Sterling Marlin.
He's on the inside of David Strimmy, the 14 car. That's actually his teammate. Looks like he gets a little bit loose. Has to chase the car. Stays off of David Strimmy, but around he goes.
That's turn 2. We talked about it again. With the addition of the safety barrier, you lost 3 more feet, but off turn 2, it can get tight through there, especially with cars running 2 lanes.
Greg Biffle, the first of the top 10 cars to make a green flag pit stop. It was fairly clean. He comes back out onto the racetrack after cruising down pit road, going to the attention of Newt Moore and the gang. Looked like a pretty good pit stop for him.
He's going to come in. He's going to take 4 tires. He got in his pit window. He's one of the earliest cars on pit road. Davey Green, his teammate, was also in the lap before that. So Bruco cars were the first 2 cars to make their way to pit road for their green flag pit stops. I'm sure Newt's going to make a chassis adjustment, probably in addition to an air pressure adjustment.
Yeah, the last 4 or 5 laps before he pitted, he had fallen way off the pace of the leaders. They were within 10 or 15 laps of everybody who pitted on the last round of pit stop, you know, for making that green flag stop. But what Greg Biffle's got to hope is that we don't get a caution before then.
So Biffle is back up to speed on the racetrack with 4 fresh tires. We're just about at the 200-mile mark of the 300 to make up the Meijer 300 presented by Oreo, and I believe Hank Parker Jr. is caught up with the crew chief of Greg Biffle, Newt Moore.
Newt Moore here, crew chief on the 66. What kind of changes were you making there?
Well, I couldn't hear what you told me, but we got a little tight towards the end of that run. Greg's pretty happy with the car, except for the last 10 laps of the fuel run, it started getting a little tight. So we did a little work to it right there. We stopped a little early to try to fix it because we were falling off pretty quick. So.
That's pretty loud down here, as you can tell, but they've got his adjustments, got him for Mr. Feelgoods, and he's on his way.
Carl Edwards has given up the lead to make a green flag pit stop, and Glenn Jarrett is there.
Well, guys, we're just getting back. We're going up to go to the 8th pit stop with the 60 beat it. 4 tires. I don't see any, yes, 1 slight chassis adjustment in the right rear. That's probably to help fix that tight condition in the center of the corner Carl was talking about. 4 tires and fuel. This will be enough to get them to the end. There's only 65 laps, so that's right at 100 miles. So this should be their final pit stop of the night. Everything went off without a hitch.
And that turned the lead over to Martin Truex Jr., and now he will get, of course, some laps led bonus points, 5 to be exact, and he immediately heads for pit road. Did not want to give up too many laps, Phil, with the fresh tires now on Carl Edwards' car.
Absolutely not, because he knows that Carl Edwards is going to be able to run a little bit faster on fresh tires. So Martin Truex says, hey, I got my 5 points. Now I need to get pit road. Just as Reed Sorensen is too. Kenny Wallace, the Stecker 2 Chevrolet Ford, is also on pit road.
So here is Martin Truex Jr. bringing that car into his pit stall at 45 miles per hour. And Glenn Jarrett is right there on the Truex stop.
And Martin brings it in also for his final pit stop. Also, they're making an air pressure adjustment on the car and a right rear chassis adjustment as well. So 2 cans of fuel should get him there. The Busch cars run these 390 CFM carburetors, a lot smaller than the Cup cars do, so they get great fuel mileage, better than the Cup cars do. 4 tires, the chassis adjustment fuel. Martin Truex is down and away. Let's see how he comes out once he gets back up to speed, how he comes out on the racetrack in reference to Carl Edwards.
And right behind him, Reed Sorensen now is coming off pit road as Clint Boyer now makes his final pit stop, at least under green tonight.
We noticed the number 8 car, when he dropped off the jack, he got hung a little bit with the 11 car as the 11 car was making his way onto pit road, so it cost him a couple seconds leaving pit road.
Great stop for Boyer's crew, 14.7 under the gun here late in the race. That will help him. J.J. Yeley was being posted as the leader, and he's been running top 5, top 10. We see a tire has gotten away, and it looks like Kenny Wallace is going to get hit for exiting pit road too quickly, so he'll get a pass through, and somebody is going to get bit for that tire, rolling its way now through the grass here on the infield off the front stretch.
We're getting a report that that tire came off of Denny Hamlin's car. Now, if NASCAR deems that that tire was hit by another car, that it wasn't their fault, then that will not result in a penalty. But if that's not the case, then Denny Hamlin would also be brought in for a penalty.
Clint Boyer is just driven by Martin Truex Jr. Again, they're a little bit deep in the pack as we continue to cycle through these green flag pit stops. Boyer now 13th. Kenny Wallace is now serving his penalty. As you see Rusty Wallace's crew making the stop, you might see Kenny's car going by there momentarily. There's that little flash of the Stacker 2 Ford heading back out onto the racetrack. Tough break for Kenny Wallace. Ran top 15 or so all night, and that will certainly cost him a lap.
I think there's been a lot of controversy, a lot of conversation about the new rules of the way NASCAR checks your speed on pit road. They do it by the transponders now and scoring lines. One thing I learned after getting nabbed a couple of times for speeding on pit road was that on the exit, the last line before you exit pit road, it's easy to forget that the transponders are for the race car, and it's easy to, when you get to the front of the car there, to nail the gas and get caught.
There's a penalty for the 20 car, a pass-through penalty for that tire getting away. Hermie, you're exactly right. I think almost everybody that gets caught speeding is actually in that last segment. Either the first one coming in, you can't quite get stopped in time, or the last one going out.
It's human nature. When you get to that line, your spotter says go, go, go. But in that few feet, as your race car passes through there, by the time your transponder gets to the scoring line, you speed on pit road.
Because you only have to be a tenth of a second faster than they allow, and they bust you for it.
Sterling Marlin will give up the point, head to pit road. Hank Parker Jr. is there.
Sterling Marlin's got a short pit stop here. Going to put on 4 tires. He's been fighting his way back after that spin earlier, as you've noted. Just fighting his way back. Looks like just 4 tires, 2 cans of fuel, and no adjustments. A little bit of trouble in the left rear.
A lot of trouble. That pit stop almost 20 seconds long, and you can see the disgust on the face of some of those crew members. They knew what they gave up there. They needed about a 14-15 second stop. They got themselves a 20, and that's a lot of ground to make up. Probably to get them a lap down, and at this late stage of the race could keep them there.
Things have cycled back around now. Carl Edwards is back on the lead. See the 27 of David Green. See Rusty got a little bit high there. I'm not sure if he made any contact with the outside wall or not. We caught a glimpse of David Green trying to unlap himself. It looks like he's got a flat right rear tire, doesn't it, Hermie?
Yeah, he's dove on pit road really quick. It's a shame. Rusty's come back from the back to the front several times, but he's obviously run over something on the racetrack, and this will definitely take him out of contention.
So Wallace will woe down in his pit box again and make a second tire change. Let's take a look at what happened to Rusty Wallace.
Down on the inside of the 44 of Justin LeBond, you see Carl Edwards. Looked like he ran over something, then it flew up off the car. Watch him go down in this corner. He's going to have to chase this car up the hill, I think. See, Carl Edwards is really on top of things. You see him move way up the racetrack, wiggling. Carl said, hey, now let me drive by on the inside.
Really heads up driving by Carl Edwards to see that, notice it, and we got a caution on the racetrack.
And this is going to be the 6th yellow flag of the evening on lap 145, 55 laps from the finish. We're going back to green flag racing. You see the crowd again waving those white towels, sending them off down to turn number 1. Carl Edwards trying to clear Denny Hamlin. Remember, Hamlin got down a lap. It's a very good race car, but now Edwards will clear him. Martin Truex Jr. and Greg Biffle now trying to struggle to get by that lap car.
We've got the best 5 cars, I think, that we've had all night in the top 5 positions. In addition to Carl Edwards, Martin Truex, Greg Biffle, we've got Clint Boyer and Reed Sorensen in 4th and 5th. We've got the best 5 cars in the first 5 positions.
And we've got the best seat in the house right now. Greg Biffle looking out through his windshield as he tries to track down Martin Truex Jr. A little bit lower line there in turn number 1.
David Green, who's on pit road the last couple of times, just got back on the lead lap. He's faded back, way back out of the lead pack there, but racing is heavy in the middle of the pack.
Side by side, Greg Biffle takes over that 2nd position from Martin Truex Jr.
Made it look pretty easy as he worked his way to the inside of turn number 3. All right, only 1 to go for Greg Biffle. That's his Nextel Cup teammate. Carl Edwards. Remember, here on the Busch Series, Greg Biffle drives for Bruco Motorsports. And of course, Carl Edwards still plying his trade for Roush Racing.
Remember, that 60 car is the car that Greg Biffle drove last year. We heard Brad Parrott tell us that that's the car that Carl's driving, that Greg led every lap with at Darlington. So they know each other well. They flew together here from Michigan. So I wonder how the ride's going to be home if it's Greg Biffle's plane. If Carl Edwards beats Greg Biffle, I wonder how that ride's going to be home.
And I wonder if Greg will stick around if Carl has to stay here for the victory lane celebrations and, of course, all the interviews with the press. So it's not only will he lose, but he's going to have to cool his heels at the airport waiting on Carl as well.
Carl Edwards just ran, as Phil said earlier, ran his fastest lap of the race on lap 158. So he has really stepped up the pace on this most recent lap, trying to get to a lead. In case something does happen and his car goes away he's got a little bit of breathing room, but he has stepped on the gas right now.
You know, I take a look at it on the racetrack. Clint Boyer running in the 5th spot. There you have Greg Biffle. Look at his race car as he dives down into turn number 1.
Carl Edwards just ran his fastest lap of the race. That lap, a 30-20.
Again, he sees Greg Biffle in his rearview mirror. He goes, I'm not taking anything to chance. You know, in this place near here, there's a thoroughbred racetrack. So I would think that Carl Edwards at this point is now at the head of the stretch and going to the whip just to make sure that that horse gets to the line first.
Greg Biffle's running his fastest laps of the race right here within the last couple laps. That lap they were separated by 2 1/1000ths of a second.
And they have both turned it up a notch, and they are pulling away from everybody else. You see, third in line there, that is Martin Truex. Then you go back to the lap car of Denny Hamlin coming into your picture. And then you will finally get to the 4th place car of Reed Sorensen. There's Carl Edwards again, and you see the gap, 1st to 2nd spot. On the stopwatch, it is 1 second, so we'll have to see if that grows or shrinks here with 38 laps to go.
We have some great stories in the top 10. We talked about Paul Menard. Never had a top 10 finish in this number 11 DEI car. He's running 6th right now. Justin Labonte has a great run going. He's 7th. Tony Raines, we talked about his crew chief situation. A new crew chief this week, Lance Diders, and he's running in the 8th position right now. Good comeback from a very poor qualifying effort.
And Casey Atwood been solid, steady all night. We talked about him having a 2-race deal in Ray Evernham's Dodge, trying to get back, reestablish himself in the NASCAR Busch Series. He's in the top 10, as is Trevor Moore.
And there's Casey Atwood trying to reel in Tony Raines to move up 1 more spot into 8th. And when you only have 2 races, only 2 shots to strut your stuff, you better make them count. And tonight, Casey Atwood is doing just that.
We've seen these kind of deals all along, though. Casey Atwood may have a 2-race deal. If he were to pull off a top 5 finish, it suddenly may be 4 or 5 races. We know how that works.
Yeah, that number could certainly change, as well it should. He's given this car a great ride tonight.
Tony Raines trying to hold off on for his 2nd straight top 10 finish.
He's driving for Kevin Harvick. Kevin had a top 5 in the truck race today at Michigan, so could be a good weekend for Kevin Harvick Incorporated.
28 laps to go in Kentucky. Martin Truex Jr. has cleared the lap car of Kenny Wallace. So has Reed Sorensen. Clint Boyer, however, still trapped in some traffic as he'll try to make his way around some slower cars and try to first get a hold of Reed Sorensen. But Martin Truex Jr. gets a big jump here on the restart.
Carl Edwards got a pretty good jump, too. As soon as they threw the green flag, he jumped to the outside, was able to get by into a car or 2. So Carl's already making his way towards the front.
Carl Edwards has led 148 laps. He desperately wants to lead just 1 more here at Kentucky. But as they come across the stripe, Martin Truex Jr. is your leader. Carl Edwards is 7th, 2.3 seconds back.
That's the point we're trying to make. You know, Carl's obviously got a fast car, but Phil, he loses over 2 seconds to Martin Truex in 1 lap.
That's right. He restarted the race essentially 18th. So he's got all the lead lap cars in front of him. You see Rusty Wallace's 64 car. He's laps down. He's got to try to get by him.
The gap back to Boyer, 1.4 seconds as he starts to pull away.
Yeah, he'd like to get up to 2nd, 3rd, somewhere in the neighborhood, have 1 more caution to tighten things back up again, because as every lap goes by, he's gaining spots but losing time to the leader.
See, Greg Biffle pulls to the outside of the 40 car of Sterling Marlin. That's also a battle for position. Greg moves up to the 7th position.
So he's trying to get up there to try to challenge for the win. but is now 5.2 seconds behind. You see him working behind the Coast Guard car of Justin Labonte. That's the 44. As they work their way into turn number 3, looks like he'll move up another spot. There's your leader again, Martin Truex Jr. A big gap back to second place, Clint Boyer.
And as Phil pointed out, every position that Carl Edwards gains from here on out, he's passing a car, a very, very fast race car who, 20 laps to go, everybody's holding on to top 5, top 10s, that kind of stuff.
And we see now that Carl Edwards, you see him come into the picture trying to drive inside of Kenny Wallace. That is not for position, but that will give him now clear racetrack. And now the top 4 cars are clear of any lapped automobiles, and we'll see what everybody's got.
This will give us a better indication of how fast Carl Edwards can run by himself, but he is well behind Martin Truex right now. 4.26 seconds behind the leader with only 19 laps to go.
Hermie, I think without the aid of another caution flag, I don't think there's any way that Carl is going to be able to catch Martin Truex. Martin's out there in clean air. He's running the fastest laps on the racetrack most of the time because Carl's been mired in traffic. Again, we're going to see this time by Carl will have one complete clean lap. We'll see what kind of lap time he runs, but I'm telling you, I don't think it's going to be that much quicker than Martin Truex.
But he's got 2 very, very competitive guys he's got to get by to even get to Martin Truex Jr. because Clint Boyer and Reed Sorensen are not going to roll over and let him go by.
Carl Edwards was the fastest car that time, but he was about 17/100ths of a second faster than our leader Martin Truex.
And that's just not enough with this little bit of time left.
Not with 18 laps to go, it's not.
He's in clean air now, but we talked about restarting it in 18th. All night long he's been up front, and they've made adjustments to what his car needed being up front. When he gets in that traffic, it's a whole nother story.
Now, so far tonight, we've had 8 yellow flags. Carl Edwards hoping for a record-tying 9th yellow flag to try to tighten this back up to get him a shot at winning, because at this point, Martin Truex Jr. is showing the way and looking very strong here in the closing stages.
Clint Boyer's not able to maintain the pace that Martin Truex is running. He's about 2.2 seconds behind right now. Reed Sorensen about 3 seconds behind. Carl Edwards is running the fastest laps on the racetrack, but I think it's a little bit too little too late.
If there was ever a testament to track position, I know as racers and broadcasters you talk about track position all the time, but if it's ever a testament to the importance of track position, this is it, because he's been Carl Edwards has been the dominant car all night long, and he's probably not going to win the race.
And also testament to this Goodyear tire. It simply does not fall off so much, even late in the run, that putting 4 fresh ones on doesn't allow Carl Edwards just to drive by everybody like they dropped an anchor.
Also, a little bit of a testament to Martin Truex Jr., who has picked up the pace and knows that the best thing for him to do is check out and stay up there by himself.
And how about that crew chief right there that made that call to stay out on the racetrack? He knew that the 2 cars in front of him were going to come down pit road because he heard their chatter on his scanner. But he said, hey, let's stay out. We'll take our chances. Here's that caution flag.
Trouble.
Looks like the 66 of Greg Biffle. That is Greg Biffle right there. A lot of contact with the rear of that car.
And that is the 9th caution. And that ties the record here at Kentucky. Greg Biffle is getting that car back up to speed after that accident in turn 2. There's a car right in the middle of the racetrack. The leaders will come up on that car. They'll drive to the inside of Greg Biffle, who's even more tore up than he already was, and that brings out a record 10th caution here at Kentucky.
Remember, no matter how long it takes to clean Greg Biffle's car off the racetrack, we will not finish this thing under caution. We'll get at least one chance to finish it under green. We saw how good Carl Edwards was on that restart. Does he have one more in him?
The green flag is out. Martin Truex spins the tires a little bit. Doesn't get a great restart, but he is able to hold off Carl Edwards as they go back to turn number 1.
Got 3 wide right behind that group. Paul Menard been able to get by Reed Sorensen. Carl looks to the outside.
Truex went to the bottom of the racetrack. Let's see if he can get up high again to make the block. He does it just in time. And here is Edwards looking back to the inside as they go towards the white flag here in Kentucky.
He just buries that car down in the corner and drives by.
Carl Edwards makes it look easy. He powers his way out of turn number 4. He'll take the white flag one more time around. He'll claim the win tonight here in Sparta, Kentucky. Works his way back to turn number 1.
And Martin Truex has got a rearview mirror full of Clint Boyer. We got a good battle for second and a gaggle of cars from 5th on back to 10th here with 1 lap to go. But Carl Edwards is checked out.
What a terrific job by Carl Edwards, Brad Parrott. We doubted his call to come in and put tires on it. The caution flag helped him. It's going to bring him the win, Mark.
They took a very big gamble, but it paid off big. The crowd on its feet to cheer Carl Edwards down to the checkered flag. His second Busch Series win of 2005, the third for his career, with Martin Truex Jr. almost a half a second back at the finish. A great run for Carl Edwards. He leads 150 of the 200 laps.
Mark, he ran the fastest lap of the race on the very last lap.
And we had all kinds of problems down in turn number 2 as the fireworks went off. We saw a couple of cars make contact, and there you see the victorious crew. Brad Parrott certainly breathing a sigh of relief that the call he made eventually paid off, even when it didn't look good there in the beginning of it.
That was incredible. The fastest lap that anyone ran this entire race was Carl Edwards on the very last lap.
Let's go to Victory Lane, where Hank Parker Jr. is standing by with tonight's winner.
They're celebrating down here a dominating performance that never give up is what he was saying in the holler today. Man, they have done it tonight. Carl, dominating performance, but man, you made it really racy there at the end. What'd you think about that last restart?
Oh boy, I just can't say enough about the competitors out there. Martin Truex, Clint Boyer, Reed Sorensen, those guys are awesome, and Brad just gave you a watermelon. Way to go, Hank! Way to go, Hank!
Wait a minute now. I didn't know I was going to be in the celebration here.
I just got to thank Meijer for sponsoring the race. Thank Charter Communications. They're an awesome sponsor. And thank Greg Biffle and Rusty Wallace for flying me back and forth. And thank you, Hank, for helping us out with the practice. But, man, my team is awesome. Martin Truex is a heck of a driver. That was awesome to be able to race with him. He is as good as they get.